This is going to be an overview of FormKey Sequencer. The first area we're going to take a look at is our channel strip. In the channel strip, you'll see we have a volume level slider, a knob to pan our audio field left or right, plug-in strips for our instruments and effects, and at the very top, a color-coded header that has a dual functionality. It lets you know what track you're on, and it's also a toggle to switch back and forth between our sequencer and our instrument. Lastly, at the very bottom, we have navigation arrows that let you switch which track you're on currently. Everything here is pretty self-explanatory. The one thing we're going to touch on is our instrument slot and our effects slot. If you tap either of the slots, you'll get a menu showing all of the plugins you currently have installed on your device. If you have no plugins installed on your device, then all you'll see in the instrument slot is tone and wave, our built-in instruments for FormKey. The next thing we're going to take a look at is our settings menu. You've got some basic options in here like swing and following the playhead as the music plays back. You can also export stems or clear your track out entirely from here. But the main thing we want to focus on here is grid and allowed durations. FormKey is a little bit different than your normal sequencer because of the glyphs that we use. Normally in MIDI, your notes can start wherever and end wherever, and it's not very precise. We're not encoding something that needs to fit into a system to relay specific values for a reader. The values just have to be accurate. Form exists to walk the line between MIDI and formal notation, so it lives right in the middle. And you have to be precise in order to get the correct data out of your notes. Notation software specifically has struggled for a long time with getting a user's correct output and matching it to notation without a user having to go in and edit things manually. In FormKey, that's not the case because we set our grid up in a certain way. We're also doing a little bit of magic on the back end to ensure things come out cleanly every time. The reason why these options here exist is so that a user can decide what data they need for their notes to be accurate before performing. For example, if you're working on drums, you may need 32nd notes or 64th notes, so you would drop your grid resolution down. If you're recording chords, you may not need anything below an eighth. Allowed durations are going to give you dotted notes or triplet notes. What you'll find is that sometimes if you're recording and the note is either too long or stops prematurely, you may need a dotted or a triplet note in that case to land in the correct space. For more information on how those notes work, go into Learning, tap Overview, and look at all of the allowed durations. They're pretty self-explanatory and you'll see exactly how they fit into the rest of the note durations. Next, we're going to load a project in so we can take a look at how patterns work. So the first part we're going to take a look at is pattern. And you can see that we have different pattern slots available for you to record music into. Next to that, we have bars, which you can set to different lengths. A cool feature of the way we've made FormKey is that your music will always sync up. You can do one bar on one track and four bars in another, and they're always properly aligned. I want you to take notice of this sections area because you'll find that we do things a little bit differently than most of your normal DAWs. We utilize more of a groove box setup that old MPCs used to have, where we build our songs out into sections and then we take those sections and build them into an arrangement. Looking at a different project briefly, you'll notice that some sections have an empty circle and a music icon on it, but then some sections have just an empty circle. If you see a music icon trailing a section, that means that section has notes for the track that you're currently on. If you see just an empty circle and no note, then that means that section has notes on another track in your project. Let's go ahead and take a look at the arrangement area now to give you an idea of how it works. If you tap on the plus icon down here at the bottom, you'll see we have different options for how we want to set up our arrangement. You can throw these together in any combination that you want to. Once you're ready to hear your arrangement, instead of cycling the section that you currently have selected in your sequencer, you need to come up and toggle this cycle button. Now, if you hit play, it'll start from the beginning of your arrangement. Lastly, for this arrangement section, you'll see this little X icon down here. This is your delete button for the arrangement area specifically. If you tap it once, it'll give you the option to clear everything out. If you press and hold it and then tap an arrangement block, it'll give you the option to delete just the blocks that you selected. The last piece of functionality that we need to look at here is copy and paste and how to clear notes. Copy and paste is going to be vital for you to build out your tracks in different sections and patterns. It's very straightforward. You tap copy in the area that has a pattern, then switch to a pattern or section that doesn't have a pattern, and you hit paste. That's all there is to it. The next thing we're going to look at is clearing notes, and that works in two ways. The first way, you just tap clear Confirm that you want to delete everything and your entire pattern disappears. The next way, if you press and hold clear and then start tapping notes, you'll see that they highlight and start flashing. Once you release clear, the confirmation will pop up that you want to delete just those notes. And that's pretty much it for the walkthrough on our sequencer. The last piece of info that I need to leave you with here is that at this time, there's no direct editing of the notes, but that's intentional. We may update this later depending on how everyone feels, but one of the goals with FormKey is performance. The whole thing with FormKey is to make you a better musician. In a standard DAW, it's very easy to get out of performance mode and get into editing mode. So the intention behind this is to keep you in a groove. If you have any additional questions, feel free to ask in the comments below and I'll respond as soon as I can.